Hello everybody, thanks for tuning in. Just thought I'd share some stuff that I'm working on at the moment at GraphCMS. Currently working on a new reference application, commerce focused reference application with Next.js, and that's going to be essentially using GraphCMS as a product inventory management, PIM for short. So yeah, this is the application so far. As you can see, we're just kind of building out some product pages. We also have category pages, and these are all fully localized using Next.js localized routing and GraphCMS's localization API. So we have some basic product pages right now. They have, title, images, description. What's missing right now is actually the commerce functionality, and that's to have a shopping cart and to actually check out. So over the next couple of days, I'm going to be working on that. Today, we're going to be focusing on adding a shopping cart, and that's going to be using this library here, React Use Cart. And tomorrow we will, once we have the cart set up, and tomorrow we will kind of pair that with Stripe checkout, most likely, so that we can actually accept payment for our products. But today we're focusing on the actual shopping cart. So we're going to add a cart, and we're going to add some functionality to the page so you can actually add a product to the shopping cart, remove it, perhaps increase quantity, decrease quantity, things like that. So looking at this library here, React Use Cart, this is my friend Jamie's library. What's important to know about this is purely local state for a shopping cart. There's no API attached to this. We could have went down an API option. Jamie's also built CartQL, but for the purposes of this reference application, I just wanted like something local state that's quick and easy to use, has a nice API that's familiar with, and I know that it'll integrate with what we need to do with Stripe checkout as well. So yeah, we're going to add this to our pre-existing Next application and probably add a button to our product page, things like that. Nothing too crazy today. So yeah, let's dive in and have a look. So React Use Cart, it's a quick example there, following a kind of a common pattern in React applications using React context with this provider pattern. So essentially wrap your entire application as provider, and then from that you can kind of derive data and functions and methods that actually perform actions such as adding to cart, and those are available via this use cart hook as well. So what we'll do is we'll just actually install this library to start. So here I am in the project here in VS Code. Just going to add that there. So we're in the app.js, which is essentially the kind of entry point of the Next.js application. So this is where you'd have any kind of provider components that you need to wrap your entire application. This is where you'd add them. So we're going to import the cart provider here, and then actually just wrap that around our pre-existing page essentially. So we can import cart provider from React Use Cart. It's important here at this point that we actually put that above our layout component. Not sure what's happened there. Some kind of autocomplete has messed up the import statement. Seems to have resolved itself. So what we want to do is we actually want to make cart provider, the cart provider component, actually at the root of that wraps every part of our application, including this layout component that we have. Because if we look at the layout component, what's in here is actually our header, and we have our navigation links, and we have our select element for switching locales as well. So just to show that, that component is essentially up here. So what we want to be able to do is at some point is render an actual cart icon in here that's showing what your cart total is or how many items in your cart. So that is why we need to make cart provider the top level, even above the layout. So then when we're inside layout, we can actually use the use cart hook to get the data that we want to show. So now that's installed and that's wrapping our application. First things first, I think we just want to kind of probably add a button to our product page just to add it to cart. So if we go into our product page here, yeah, so this is the actual page, the Next.js page, and you can see we're using getStaticPaths with getStaticProps to build these pages. This is how we build the localized pages, and I don't want to get too far into this. I've got a separate video on Next.js localization, which I'll link to. But essentially, we are providing a locales array here that's available from Next.js. And for each of those locales, we're going to fetch the products that are available to us. So for each of those products, in each localization, we then want to build a page for that. So that's all that's essentially doing. And then through getStaticProps, we fetch that particular product that we're interested in with the locale that's passed to getStaticProps. And then that product itself is made available inside of our page props. And then we've got this kind of page product UI component, which is actually what's rendering the page itself. So we'll open that as well. Yeah, then there's various stuff in here. We're just using kind of React State to manage variants. Each product has a variant. I'll probably look at the schema in a bit. It's not important right now, but just kind of a quick overview is that we have a top level product. So in the context of this t-shirt is the top level product, and then what you'll see is we actually have a URL param here, and that's the variant ID in GraphCMS. So each product will have various variants depending on sizes and colors available in those combinations. So if I'm switching styles here, see I need a large, the variant ID will update, and that variant ID is what we actually need to use, because obviously in regards to product inventory, you don't just sell a t-shirt, you sell a size of a t-shirt or a color of a t-shirt. So we're particularly interested in this variant ID, and that's what we'll use in regards to the cart, because inside of GraphCMS, the product variant has the price, not the actual product. So you could essentially, with this schema, you could alter prices on a per variant basis. But again, don't want to get too far into that today. Just going to hook up this cart with a basic button and show some cart state. So yeah, that's that code there that takes care of that, and then we have our just our JSX that's just rendering the page from the data with the data from the CMS using Next.js image component, which is really nice. Yeah, this is a good example of Next.js features, obviously for localization, next image as well, and their kind of static data fetching hooks. But what we're going to do is we're just going to add a button here real quick. Not particularly interested in the styling of the button at the moment, but just want a button, and it's just going to say add to cart. Now, we're not going to localize these strings yet. We don't have any kind of I18 client-side I18 solution. Any localization at the moment is done via Next.js and GraphCMS. So all this is stored in the CMS. There's product names as well, even these category titles that are built on the navigation, which will change. So that's really nice. We don't have any kind of client-side I18N solution at the moment. You could use something like Next.Translate to do that, and that will allow you to kind of localize strings like this from a JSON object or something. probably do another video on that actually, because that's quite an interesting challenge as well. But right now we just got our button here to add to cart. And what we want to do is we actually want to give that cart an on-click handler for it to sort of actually do something, because right now it's just a button, so it's not particularly interesting. So if we have a look at the use cart docs, some nice documentation here. Just going to dive down to the actual documentation. We obviously got our cart provider, and then obviously the use cart hook as well, which exposes all of these functions that we can use to manipulate cart state. So we're interested in actually adding an item to our cart, and we have this add item function which accepts two parameters, an item and a quantity. Item is required. If you don't pass quantity, it will default to 1. Item is an object. It has to match a certain signature, so we need to provide an ID and a price value. So price is an integer. I'm not sure if it has to be an integer, whether it can be a string, I'm not sure, but we want to pass an integer, so that will work better with Stripe and our currencies. We also need an ID, and in this case, it's going to be the variant ID of the particular product that we want to buy. And we'll get back, and that comes back to what I was saying before about the price living on the variant, because what we're going to have to do before we can actually kind of check out with Stripe is actually validate that these client-side prices that we're passing from the cart to Stripe are actually valid. So we're going to have to essentially call back to GraphCMS with those variant IDs and say, is this price correct for this particular variant? So that'll be an interesting challenge tomorrow. But for right now, again, we're just going to add something to the cart and render that data. So we're going to use this add item function, and we're going to pass it an item and the quantity that is set from the item value that is set from this select here. So that's using React useState. So if we in our product page UI, what we want is use cart, I believe it's called. I'm going to do const add item. Yeah, we need to fix this. Seems the entry point of the package is wrong, so when I'm using the autocomplete for the import statements, it's messing up. So maybe I'll have a look at that on the repository, or Jimmy, perhaps you could have a look at that. So yeah, we'll just use add item right now. We're going to just pass that. Actually, what we'll do is we'll actually just what will we do? Yeah, just for now, we'll just add it directly on the on-click here. Can't type. So our item will be, we need to pass an ID, which will be active variant ID. So that's what's used in the URL params. That's what's set by switching that variant select that updates that value. We also want price, and that will be active. And we also have an active variant dot price. This should work. I cannot type. And then we also want to do quantity, and that will be variant quantity. What's the problem here? got one, I'm not sure what's going on there with all those divs. Hey, you're having a nightmare here. Don't need to pass that quantity key because it's not an object. Of course, that second argument is just, it's not inside of an object, so we can't just pass quantity with a value, we need to just pass the value. So variant quantity is what's set in our state on the page, and we want to pass that like so. I've got Jamie text me, live coding debugging. Thanks, Jamie. Appreciate that. So now we've got our add to cart button, and doesn't look like it does anything because obviously there's no actual feedback from that action. We don't have any form of we don't, you know, that state is inside of our local storage inside of browser, but we're not manipulating that or showing that anywhere in the UI. So now that we've added that add to cart, let's just go ahead and just kind of render out a quick page that'll just show cart data. I'll just print out the JSON that's available to us. So inside of this, I'm just going to create a new cart page. What we need to do is we actually need that use cart hook as well, because that's where all of our data is. So I'll have to have a look, see what actual function we need from the use cart hook to display what cart items we have. So we've got lots of functions here to actually kind of manipulate item quantities, remove items, empty the cart. And yeah, so there's a item constant which we can just use. I imagine that's just going to turn an array of cart items. Yeah, so let's have a look at that. And we're just going to print out this JSON just so we can see. Excellent. So now if we head to /cart, we should have a JSON printout of essentially what our state is. So we're expecting to see this t-shirt in our cart with various quantities. And again, it's that import statement. Keep forgetting about that. Nice. So the item total that's not something we pass, that's kind of automatically computed by the library based on the price and the quantity. Oh no, is it not? That's interesting. I'm not sure what that's supposed to be. Let's have a look. Interesting. So item total, not referenced anywhere in the docs. But my understanding is that that would be kind of the quantity times by the price. So it would give you an item total for each line. So that would be, what would that be, 20,000? Yeah, that should be 20,000. So at least as I understand that, that's the purpose of that item total property. I could be wrong. Perhaps we need to have a look at that. But just to prove that this is working as we want, what we'll do is we'll just add some other stuff to the cart. So we want a cap as well. Maybe we want 2 caps. Let's add to cart there. Again, back to cart. Yeah, so this one, this item total seems to work, so that's right. Price 2200 times by 2 is 4400. 2500 times by 8 is not 2500. So we need to look, yeah, we'll have to kind of file a bug, I guess, on the issue and figure out why that is. Interesting. But yeah, as you can see, our cart has been manipulated now. We actually have the, you know, we added a cap. And what's interesting is we can actually pass whatever data we want to that add item function. The item is essentially just an object that represents whatever we want, so we can pass whatever key values we want in there, as long as it has an ID and a price, which is what we've passed so far. So we can even add like the product name, you know, the variation, like in some cases it'll just be like black, or it'll be, you know, the color and the size. So we can do that as well. SKU, although we're not using that currently, that might be helpful to add to the schema. And even the image, we could even pass the image URL for this variant, so that we can have a nice cart UI that actually has images in line of your cart page. So let's kind of start to maybe build out this page, this cart page a bit more, so it actually has more functionality. So we could remove this item, maybe print a cart total, and then we're in a better position to tomorrow to actually add Stripe checkout. Okay, so let's dive back into the code. So we have our basic cart page, but what we're just going to do is just going to kill that because it's not really any use. And what we're going to do is we're just going to map over these. And we'll say div of course you want a key on that when we're mapping over. Item.id. We do have Tailwind available to us here, so what I'm probably going to do is just use Flex just to kind of get this working. I almost feel pressured using Tailwind on a stream or a video because I've used it forever and I still don't feel like I'm a master. But the IntelliSense plugin's kind of really helpful. Gets you kind of off the ground fast, as you can just kind of add those utility classes as you need. Yeah, so for what each key, for each item in our cart, what we want is what are you seeing? What would you expect to see in a cart? You're gonna expect to see like what's an example of a good shopping cart? You're gonna want to see the product name. Why are my divs not auto-closing? It's really annoying. You want to see the name, you want to see the quantity, price, so this one's going to fail right now because I didn't actually add that. Yeah, so item price must be, I'm just going to add this back in actually, just because it's handy to just visualize the full JSON that you're working with. Yeah. Okay, so price, quantity, price. So we're going to actually pass some more details in, and I'm going to also just quickly add a button to clear this cart as well. But we want more details for our cart items. Like we have no context of what this product is. You know, we've just got the UID from GraphCMS for the variant and the price. What we really want is to be actually be able to have an image, have the name, and even to be able to kind of click that name and go to the page would be cool. Which we could do past the slug as well. So let's revisit our product page UI and what we actually pass to the add item function. Let's just kind of revisit that. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to refactor this and just say add to cart, and then we'll create our own add to cart function up here. And then it's going to call add item. And what we'll say is why don't we just send the entire variant, because we have, well, let's do this. Okay, so we'll spread in the variant, active variant. We also spread in, should have the product too. Yeah. So you just spread in everything, and then we can just kind of figure out what we need and derive, kind of pick that from that there. And then we obviously need pass quantity, and it is variant. Great. So now if I visit a cart, we should have a much. Yeah, no, the problem is I've already added that snapback. So what happened there is I've already added that snapback to our cart previously. And because I clicked add again, it's just incremented the quantity, which is nice. It hasn't added that item again as another line in our cart. It's just incremented the quantity of the previous or the pre-existing item. That's actually really handy, and would be a pain if you kind of added the same item again and it would just kind of added another line item in the cart. So that's really nice to have. Okay, so let's add that. Yeah, so here we go. So this is a bit better now. So now we've just kind of spread in the entire product object from GraphCMS as well as the active variant. So we've got all sorts here now. You know, even things like type name, which is not really useful in this instance. But we've got the product name, the price, even the formatted price that we can use, product description, images that we can use. So we're going to get a nice inline image of our cart items. Variants, we don't really need all of those because this particular cart item belongs to, this particular cart item is essentially a single variant, so we don't need all of the variants. But it's good that we have this data now, so we can actually kind of slowly cherry pick what we want and to build our cart UI out. So I'm just going to actually quickly add a button to this cart page that's going to clear the cart. Shows empty cart, I think I saw. Nice, yeah, so that's what we want. So back on our cart page, we want empty cart. What we'll do is we'll just quickly add a button here. Nice. So that's getting rid of all of that stuff. And now if I just go back and add this particular jumper or long sleeve tee, just need to add a cart button to this nav. Let's just do that quickly because I'm sick of typing the URL. So we go to layout. Oh, don't want to print. So we go to layout. This is such hard to see with this split page. yeah, let's not have split panes. It's hard to see at this resolution and at this size. Okay, yeah. So here's our locale selection. What we want to do is we want to just have Next.js link. It'll be /cart. And we have an A inside there. It's going to be cart. Yeah, excellent. Nice. Okay. That was a very quick win, but it saves me a lot of time. So back to our cart page. Now we've got all the data that we want. We can start to actually build out. So I actually build out a cart UI that looks somewhat decent. Item.name. What we actually want to do is actually make this. No, we'll not do that now. Don't get any yourself, Johnny. Yeah, and again, just using what we want to do. We want to use next image here. Image which accepts an SRC, which is going to be item.images, the first index, URL, which is that, and then width is the same, essentially. You can obviously tidy this up right now. I'm just, because I've passed in, we're just spreading the entire product object and the entire variant object. What we can actually do is just select or send a single image. Yeah, so there you go, there's our big product. So we need to make that a bit smaller. That's kind of done with what I generally do is something like just use, let's just use 1/6, so that'll constrain that image size there. Let's add a link to this. And that'll actually link back to our localized product page. It's going to be product/item.slug. And then we need an A inside of there. Is not defined. Should be now. Yeah. So now see we actually get localized. Yeah, so this is interesting because this is where this whole concept of localization might fall down a bit. We might have to think about how we can handle that, because what we did here is we actually added this product. It was an English product that we added to the cart. So this product object, or this cart item object, has reference to essentially the English product. Now in GraphCMS they share the same UID. That's not the problem. But what is localized is the string. So for example, if I switch context here, switch locale, go back to cart, we're going to get a 404 because the page for this product does not exist, because that is the English slug for that product. Does that make sense? So this is the German page for that product, because that's the German localized slug. So what we might need to do and figure out, and probably not today, is actually how do we kind of localize, or how do we localize cards, or do we not? Do we at all? Are we not bothered about that? So that's an interesting problem to think about. What you could do is potentially just clear the cart if you switch locale. Not a great user experience. Looking at use cart, I saw reference to having, essentially you can use here, card provider accepts an optional ID property. If you pass an ID, then you can use multiple instances of card provider. So that might work. I have to think about that, but that might work in that you could essentially pass the ID as part, pass the locale key as part of the ID. Not sure how that would work. Maybe I need to speak to Jamie about this. But it's an interesting problem to have. But for the purposes of this stream, we're just going to kind of concern ourselves with the build the cart for English products at the moment, and we'll kind of figure out how we can handle that separately. So what else have we got? We've got our link back to our product. We've got our image. We've got quantity, which you might want to actually increment or decrement as well. So kind of let's do that. Let's add some UI to that. Yeah, I mean, this is a very rough and ready UI, but all I'm bothered about right now is functionality. This is kind of generally how I would work normally. Just build out the functionality so it's functioning, and then add the styling and the kind of make any adjustments to page structure and hierarchy after the fact. Right now we're just interested in a functioning card that we can actually use data on. So what we need is a button here. I'm just going to check the docs again. This is definitely, pretty sure there's a function to update item quantity. So we want to do update item quantity. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to use that update item quantity function. We're going to give it our item ID and then decrement the quantity. So we'll say decrement item quantity, and this will be our own function. What is it? Dash? All right. I need to create this function. Decrement. Oh, I cannot type. Always happens when I'm on stream. That's going to accept a item argument. Pass in here. So this is, so at this point we're only interested in the item for this particular cart item. Obviously we're only decrementing that item, not the entire cart. What was that function? Update item quantity. We'll do item quantity. Update item quantity. It's going to be item.id. I cannot type. And then item quantity -1, because we want to decrement that for this particular action. So we have to create our own decrement item quantity function. Can't spell, but that will do it. interesting. Oh, went the wrong way. What has happened here? I think that's because where's my cart? Have I cleared the cart? Interesting. So somehow the cart cleared. I don't remember doing that myself. But let's just keep that cart. Is that not adding? Add to cart. Can update a component while rendering a different component to locate the bad set state in Solid. Yeah, I think that's because passing an argument there. It's a function. There we go. Yeah, so a decrement works. Now, what obviously happened there was it vanished from the cart, and that's because there was only one quantity in there. If I had two now, you get one, and it's gone. So that's pretty cool to have. Apparently, I don't know the HTML entity for the dash element. But what is a good resource is this. This is very handy. Shortcut. Is that M dash for that? I'll just use this. And that what we want is also plus. Now what you probably have in an actual finished UIs, you probably have a nice SVG icon from some kind of nice icon set like hero icons or similar, not just some HTML symbol. But again, this is rough and ready. This is just what I'm working on today. This is not meant to be production ready at all. We'll get there, but right now I'm just building out this functionality that we need to get going. And then we also want to create an increment item quantity as well. Now we'll also take item. Keep that there. Update item quantity item. One thing that might be nice for this library to do is actually export increment and decrement item quantity functions. I don't know, maybe. So you just pass it an item ID, and yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's just too much. Maybe it's too verbose. I don't know. Anyway, that might be cool. Maybe I'll PR that. I don't know. Let me know if that's something you'd like, Jamie. Well, my button. My button does not work. What has happened here? Little clicks on the outside of the button unintentionally. How is that? this is bothering me. We can compute that ourselves, because that should essentially be updating as this quantity value updates. That should be a line total for all these items, but obviously that's not happening for some reason. Just want to inline this with old flex item center. Another nice thing is just space x2. Ooh. Yeah, I need to put a spanner on that to actually get that space in. Nice. Yeah, I don't know why that symbol didn't like that symbol, did it? Let's just try this one. It's better. Nice. Alright, so what else is important to a cart? Well, we obviously need a cart total, so a total of all our line items. So right now, that is, we just got one item. What we want is we want a total for everything in our cart, so that is what we will pay. And thankfully, React Use Cart gives us that total as well. Total items, total unique items, cart total. And this will return a value, an integer, for all items in the cart. Perfect. And again, this value will update as we're kind of working with items and quantities and things like that. So as we're updating all of that, it will update to reflect those changes to our cart. So you can see this is an actual reflection of the cart value. That's, this line item, this cart item is 2200 per item. We have 5, so that should also be 1100. This should also be 1100. That's kind of a bug in the library right now that we need to figure out, or we should figure out. So this value is pretty redundant to us, so we should probably try and kind of calculate that ourselves. Item.price. Oh no, did I? Maybe that's actually the price from the CMS and not the. What else do we have on this item? Item price, quantity, to item total. Yeah, it's still not right. 4400. We have 5, so that should be like 1100. It's not working correctly. So maybe we'll add our own instead. So what we'll do is, to do this, what we probably want to do is just create a constant for this inside the line items here. And we'll say item total equals item dot quantity times item price. It's pretty simple. We can use that const down here. Just missing a curly bracket there. What a guess. Yeah, so now you can see that is updated. So it's actually a reflection of that. Okay, so we've got our SWOT as well. I'll just add another product quickly and then you'll see. I need to hide that JSON. Let me just hide that JSON real quick. So yeah, we're manipulating these price totals. It's affecting the cart total. That's nice, really nice, cool stuff. So one other thing we might want is to actually remove an item. Right now we can do that by just decrementing the quantity completely. It's kind of annoying though, because you don't want to have to click like twice to remove it, you just want to click once. So again, there is a function on this library called remove item that we can just pass the item ID and it'll remove all that item regardless of quantity. So we'll just add another little div here with another unstyled button. What was the argument of that ID? Nice. Excellent. Yeah, so it's important to note as well as refresh states persisted because it's in local storage. So even if you were to kind of come back, your card session still exists as it was, which is pretty cool. And again, this is all local state, so it's really fast. The only thing to note, and what I mentioned about earlier, is the kind of validation of pricing. You have to be careful around that because obviously this is all client side. Your cart could be manipulated at checkout to adjust prices accordingly. So you need to do some kind of price validation on server side, and that's something we'll look at tomorrow. Yeah, I think this is a good, quick oversight. Been going for about an hour now, I think. So yeah, this was nice. Good introduction to this library. Thanks to Jamie Barton for building it. If you like what you've watched today, I'd appreciate if you could tune in tomorrow when we'll work with Stripe checkout and actually validating those prices with Graph CMS queries as well. So a nice server-side element to bring in to this reference application. But yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.